Welcome back to Freely Blooming with Kaylee. So one of my first videos I did was all about seed starting for this year's garden, and y'all saw me plant some. I did a little time lapse on planting some seeds, and now we're weeks in to getting seeds started and getting plants started. And I just wanted to give you a little update and kind of show you how I up-pot my seedlings that started, kind of what to look for, what to do. I'm coming at you from my freezing cold garage. So we kind of built an indoor gym over this last year when gym shut down. Working out's pretty important to both of me and my husband. And I do have a propane heater in here, but it's been cold for so long, and the highs in the 40s today, which is absolutely fantastic after this last week of crazy snowstorms. But it's still really cold in here, and I didn't want to waste propane. So this is a shelf that my husband built as part of his workbench that he built here in the garage. And this is kind of my plant nursery. Luckily, a lot of the seeds that I started were cold weather hardy plants. So they all made it through the nights, even though it got really, really cold in here. Luckily, these lights that I got from Vivo Sun, I know that's a new update since last time. These are T4 lamps. They are 4 feet long. I hung one up here and one right here, and I still have another tray of plants in a closet, but I'm kind of trying to consolidate, and I up-potted so many plants already. I wanted to show you how they're growing and how they're doing. So these are my lights. I still have some of my cookie sheets here. Still have some of my baking sheets here. These are a lot of the plants that I up-potted already. Now we have our broccolis, some more broccoli. I have some cabbages going on. I have purple cabbages and some cauliflower going on. We have some arugula. These are my onions. These really need to get in the ground pretty soon. And I'm gonna go up this little ladder because I cannot reach up here. These are just a few things I have. I have some kales. And let's see what this one is. Arugula. It's hard to see, but they're doing so well. I'm so glad these lights kind of put off a teeny bit of heat. This currently is my planting situation. So we do have a hot water heater in here. Luckily, this is on wheels. We can quickly push it out of the way if needed. We've tried to kind of organize. We do have a shelter down in here. So this is just an old, not super old, an IKEA cart. That was the first house we moved into was a rental, and we had this for a kitchen island, and I just decided I didn't really find a place to have it in our current house. So it is being utilized. I'm planting on here. So you kind of see right here these kale leaves, which I should have probably gone ahead and pinched off one of these, but they were both looking so healthy, and I figured at the time that I repotted, these are the pots I'm up-potting to. I talked about it in my first video again, but these are a little bit flimsy. I'm not sure that I would reuse these. I'm not gonna be able to reuse these more than likely, so I'm not sure if I'll buy them again. I would prefer something that I could reuse, but that's what I'm up-potting to. So you notice some of mine are turning yellow, and that is because they basically have run out of nutrients in these little cells here. And so I needed to I should have pinched one off. You really wanna try to keep just one plant. Once they all sprout and start doing really well, you can pinch off, if you have more than one, and give more nutrients to those plants there. But see, these are yellow. They're just running out of nutrients. So I am up-potting them. I have a bucket in here that I usually use for hauling feed. And I went ahead and put my seed starting soil in here, and I pre-moistened it. That's something that I started doing that has just been really convenient and helpful. So I'm just gonna repot a lot of these babies. I got these trays from Bootstrap Farmer. I'm really loving it. It's sturdy. I can tell these are definitely going to be able to be reused year after year. I have heard of people using them for 7, 8 different seasons, and they're still in good shape. So this is the tray that goes, kind of goes underneath it, and I water from the bottom. I went ahead and filled it with water just to water these new ones before I put it back in. But you can see this is another Blue Ridge kale that I just waited too long to up pot, and so it did get a little yellow. So I think those will be okay. But you see some spinaches, and this is this Vaio cabbage. It's something new that I have planted. So yeah, I'm just going to sit here, kind of up pot some of these. Look how gorgeous this root system is right here. That's why I love to water from the bottom, and that's why I love these trays where you can water from the bottom. It doesn't disturb the seeds on top as they're starting to sprout, but it also kind of causes the roots to really search out that water, and so it develops a really strong root system from the beginning. And here I have multiple plants started. This is a lettuce mix, and you know, those seeds are so tiny, and just to ensure germination, I did put more than just a few seeds. I probably put 3 or 4 by the looks of it. So I'm just gonna pinch off some of the smaller ones. You don't wanna pull it because you don't wanna destroy that root system. So I pinched off the smaller 2, and I'm gonna keep these bigger 2. Hopefully maybe later I can separate them and keep them like that, or I may just kind of get rid of one later. Don't forget to write what is on. Write down what are in your pots. You can either use the labels, or you can just write on these plastic pots. I can just write right on there. That way I know exactly what I got. Now I am using a knife to get these out. To be honest, I didn't really know exactly, you know, what I've been used to in the past are these, you know, these kind of flimsier trays right here where I could just push on the bottom and it popped right out. These are really sturdy seed trays, and so I can't do that, but I also don't want to risk breaking them. So honestly, I'm sure there's a better way. I'm sure there's somebody who's like, yeah, don't do it that way. But this is working out for me. I'm just using, just to be honest, I'm using a butter knife and kind of separating the dirt from the edges here and pulling it out that way. As you can see, I'm not very good at getting it centered. That's perfectly fine, it'll still grow. You don't want to press down too hard. You still want the soil mixture to be loose to allow those roots to really grow and be able to grow. But packing it down a little bit ensures that you're not going to have a lot of settling with the soil when you water. So this is some celery that has taken quite a long time to come up. As you see, a little dry. I need to go ahead and water this. Some celery that's just now coming up. These are all planted obviously here at the same time. Some more spinach that's kind of losing some nutrients. This is actually cilantro. It is just kind of changing color, and I think maybe because it had gotten pretty cold. Gotten pretty cold last night, but these are those lettuce mixes. Some Russian red kale. There's lettuce mixes that are coming up. I'm not sure why I planted 15 cells of this lettuce mix. I'm gonna have to go back and look at my notes and see if someone actually requested lettuce mix. I kind of offered to a few friends to start some seeds for them, or possibly even sell a few. Yeah, it's all looking really good. And I'm kind of just holding this up here. Here's another tray. Again, this is something I will probably have to go back and look at to see what all I planted. I'm not exactly sure what those are, but I do see some stuff coming up. I think these are amaranth spinaches and some more varieties of lettuce. Obviously, you can tell I'm a little excited about the greens this spring, for sure. So I definitely don't love when people give hard and fast rules. And I noticed when I went back and looked at my seed starting video that it sounded like I was giving some pretty hard and fast rules as far as seed starting. I think I even mentioned that you can't really grow without grow lights. And I'm gonna go ahead and clarify and say that's not true. I know people who have grown and started seeds without grow lights, but it is quite a bit harder and takes more work. You're constantly turning, and the light coming in from a window usually just isn't that strong. And a lot of times most people don't have enough light coming through a window to really start a good amount of seeds. And if you're starting a few things, I think that's awesome. And if that's all you can do right now, I say go ahead and try. The thing is, if you don't ever try, you won't really ever succeed with really anything. If you don't try, you don't know. And so I always heard that, and I've read that, you really only need one plant per cell. And I'm up potting and allowing a couple more plants to grow in each pot. And that way, hopefully later on, before I put it in the ground, I can separate it out and have more than one plant. So I'm trying to save a little bit of space because of the fact that I am up potting and starting extra plants for other people. And, more plants than I'm even going to be able to plant, especially cabbages. I'm not sure why I planted so many cabbages. Cabbages take up a lot of room, and hopefully I will maybe try to make some more room somewhere, but I am putting more than one plant in a lot of these pots just to see how it turns out and if I can end up separating them and having more plants. For people who are super organized, this probably looks like a disaster to you. I am not a super organized person, but I think it is really important to take a journal or notes. I did notes, for the 2020 garden season. I try to draw things out, exactly what I planted and what I want to plan. I absolutely have enjoyed this. I know some people who make really detailed spreadsheets, and that's just not really me as a person. I'm never gonna spreadsheet anything. So I did kind of mark, little points that did have a 1 on this tray to know exactly, okay, next to the 3, how many did I plant? So anyway, my whole tray, I am writing everything down. I'm writing down dates of when I pot them. So that way, if anything goes wrong or if I want to improve for next year, I have it all written out. That way I know exactly what I did, what kind of varieties I've planted and everything else. I think it's always a great idea to track exactly what you've done. And I'm so glad that I heard that advice when I very first started out, because I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known what to do differently. That way, if something does fail or something doesn't succeed in your garden, you know what to change for next year. Now, I am getting a little nervous. I planted a whole tray of different types of peppers, hot peppers and sweet peppers. I'm only seeing a few sprout out so far. I know peppers are a little bit of a harder thing to start indoors, and they do take a longer time to sprout and get to size before you can plant them outside. They are a heat-loving plant, and they do take quite a bit more work, but so I'm not going to give up yet, and I'm not getting discouraged yet, but I know last year I started lots of pepper plants, and I went back and looked at my notes and I saw exactly when I sowed them inside, and they did so well. I had an abundance of peppers, and it was really exciting to see. So this way I know exactly what I did, and I know I'm not doing anything wrong right now. Hopefully it will all turn out. Up potting my seedlings is really another reason. I knew I wanted to grow a lot more things this year, but it's another reason why I invested in these 4-foot T4 lamps, because I knew that when it was time to up pot my plants, it was gonna take a lot more room. Now, yes, I did start more seeds than probably I can plant and even give away, sell, whatever I decide to do with them. Now, these are gonna take up a lot more room than just the trays. Obviously, I up potted them, so every plant is having, is getting more space. So something that I thought of doing, which I did do before I got both of these lamps, was I alternated. So, each plant needs about anywhere from 14 to 16 hours of light. So yes, that's more. You know, if you did 2 rounds, yes, that's more than a 24-hour period. So maybe if you can time it just right, you can have 1 set under your light. If you have more plants than you have space for light, you can have 1 set sitting out and turned on during the day, and then you could pull those out and then have, now if you have bottom trays, that's gonna make this a lot easier. Yes, it is a lot of work, but honestly, it pays off in the end, I promise. But you can have your second set ready to go and have them under the light at night and just alternate between night and day. That's what I'm gonna have to do because I do have so many plants and they are taking up a lot more space with these, you know, being up potted. Now you're thinking, do I have to up pot? Like, what did I buy seed cell trays for? Like, what am I doing? Yes, in order for a plant to be big enough to sustain being able to live outside, obviously, if you have a cold, hardy variety that you are planting and that you're starting, like cabbages, you're gonna be able to probably put those out before your last frost date. So mine's April 3rd. I will be putting some things out in my garden before that time. There are some things that I'm starting that will not survive until well after the frost. They need heat. They are heat-loving plants. So I'm just getting a head start. Really, I'm saving money by starting my plants indoors, but I'm getting a head start and I'm making sure all this stuff produces by the time it's done for the season. I know in some places they have a really hard time when they have a really short growing season. They have a hard time growing things like cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes that take a little bit longer and need more heat for a longer period of time. In hotter climates, they have a hard time growing things like cabbages because those do take a little bit, you know, they take a lot more time to come to harvest, and they're gonna die back when the heat hits. And so they don't have a cold enough period in order for them to grow. So really you just need to know your zone and get really familiar with what grows in your area, but seed starting really does pay off. Okay, I need your opinion too. Did I make a mistake with my basil? So I am repotting my basil right now. Basil is something that it kind of turned out really, really small. I think last year my basil plant I bought already started. So it's my first time starting basil. If you've started basil before, tell me if this is how it goes. They all look like this, very, very small. So I planted cinnamon basil, Thai basil, and Genovese basil. I think like the more typical type of basil. And they all are still really, really small. They've taken a long time. So is basil something that takes a long time to get going? Because I don't really know. Or did I make a mistake? Because I just realized, like, you know what? I'm pretty sure basil is a heat-loving plant. Like, is it too cold in here? I don't really know. So I'm repotting it and I'm thinking about putting up an extra light that I had, an extra grow light. It wasn't one of my favorite ones, but it works. And I'm thinking of you like that? So I'm thinking of keeping my basil inside. I'm thinking maybe it might just be a little bit too cold. So like my peppers that I planted, I know I will bring them in at night when they're not underneath the heat of the lamp, because it is just too cold for peppers out here. Peppers love the heat. So is basil the same? I don't really know. I have this instinct that basil's probably the same, and I maybe have made a mistake as far as leaving it out here, but I think I can totally revive it. Might as well try. If I don't try, I won't. But if I try, just might get a whole lot of good basil. Okay, one last update before I go. I have to show you an update on my peppers. If you've ever started peppers before, you probably know by now that they're really finicky. They're a hot weather plant, but they take a little bit longer to get going, and starting them indoors can be really intimidating, can be kind of hard. I'm gonna show you where my peppers are. Okay, look at all of these. So this is my bedroom. This is the desk where my husband works. He's out of town right now. It's kind of messy, but so the only way this is working is because he is out of town. So these are some grow lights that I got in the well, last year. They are really, really small and don't cover a lot of space. And I was actually going to sell them, but I decided to keep them just for rainy day, for maybe an indoor plant, whatever it be. But these are my peppers, and peppers can be kind of scary. So this took 2 weeks to germinate. I don't know if it'll adjust. These took 2 weeks to germinate, but look, they finally popped out. So peppers can be kind of scary. They love the heat. They do take a little bit longer to get going, but here they are. I'm really, really, really excited. I was really afraid they weren't gonna come out, but they're starting to come out, and I'm super pumped. I cannot tell you what kind these were. I have them all written down. I don't remember. But so these are my pepper plants. Even though I've started successful pepper plants before, don't mind all of my laundry on my bed. Even though I've started pepper plants before, I don't know, there's always that kind of like scared, hesitant thing of like, oh my goodness, it's not gonna work. Oh my goodness, it's not gonna work. This is never gonna work. I don't know why I feel that way about peppers, but they do take a little bit longer. Don't get discouraged if you're trying to grow peppers and you're not seeing them come up yet. They do need warmth, so maybe wherever they're at, if it's getting too cold at night, maybe bring them indoors, see if that helps. So I hope you're encouraged by seeing all my crazy grow light situations. I'm telling you, I have plants literally everywhere. I have some just chilling in my kitchen. I'm about to start tomatoes, so situation's gonna get even crazier. I haven't amended my garden space yet. I haven't created my new garden space. The snow threw that off for a few weeks. So yeah, that's my growing situation. I'm heading outside on this gorgeous day. One thing I will continue to do is harden off my plants here in just a little bit, which basically means once you have plants before they're ready to go out, which will really just be in a few weeks for my brassicas, I will set them outside kind of every day just to kind of get used to the outdoor climate, get used to the outdoor sun, and get used to it being a little bit colder. That's what's called hardening off your plants. So if you've started any indoor plants, I hope they're doing well, and I hope you're encouraged by this just by seeing the process as I go along. So hope you have an awesome week this week. Thanks for joining.